to the Queen to tell her her subjects had no bread. Do you know what she said?
Let them eat cake.
Here, take the bomb.
We're getting screwed, man. Every time we turn around, we're getting screwed. Oh, the revolution's going to be through podcasting for sure. That's the only way we talk. It's the little guys that take the brunt of everything. It's got to stop. Peasants, man. We're just peasants. Every one of us. You watch those old movies, you see the peasants in the background with the kings and queens walking around. We're those people. We're those people. Good morning, peasants. Welcome to another episode of The Peasant's Perspective. It is Monday, and we're so glad to be with you guys. Shantini, good morning. Didn't even get through the intro. The chats are blowing up. Carlitos, good morning, y'all. Shantini, it's cold in Michigan. It's kind of warming up here. Frazier, it's a good morning from Boise. Carlito, Tiffany, good morning from the Tube.
It is warming up, but we got a little frost.
A little frost, yeah. Don't plant your tomatoes yet, I guess. whatever it is. We have such a weird growing season here. It's so inconsistent. So Doug Wyatt just sent me a text message just saying, make it make sense, Taylor. Let me see if there's some context to that. I don't know. Apparently he's tuning in this morning. We'll see. Good morning, Pony Boy. Glad you made it. I know why everybody shows up bright and early at 6:30 a.m. Pacific, Mondays through Fridays. You're here for the simultaneous sip. And all you need for that is a cup or a mug or a glass, a tankard, a chalice or stein, a canteen, jug or flask, a vessel of any kind. Fill it with your favorite liquid. I like coffee. And join me now for the unparalleled pleasure of the dopamine hit of the day, the thing that makes everything better, the simultaneous sip. And it starts right now.
Before you get into an argument, remember this quote. A bee does not waste its energy trying to convince a fly that honey is better than shit. Some minds are not meant to be changed. Save your energy for what actually matters.
That's a good one, isn't it?
That's good advice.
A bee does not. That's a good one. I like it. All right, guys. There was a very busy weekend in the news. A lot of what I would consider like critical stories happened.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, a lot of things. So kind of to start out on Friday, the thing that happened that, I don't know, depending on who you are, it's a good thing, is Robert Mueller passed.
Oh,
died.
Yes, I did see that.
Yeah. So Donald Trump put out a tweet because, can't help himself. Robert Mueller just died. Good. I'm glad he's dead. He can no longer hurt innocent people. Donald J. Trump. And you might not remember who he is. He was the special counsel that spent 2.5 years investigating the Russiagate nonsense.
He was one of the guys I was hoping would get indicted.
Yeah, me too. Except he couldn't come and testify because he's been in an old folks home with dementia.
Okay.
Here he
Thank
is.
you for being here. 2 years ago, the acting attorney general asked me to serve as special counsel, and he created the special counsel's office. The appointment order directed the office to investigate Russian interference in the 2016 presidential election.
Wow.
This included investigating any links or coordination between the Russian government and individuals associated with the Trump campaign.
Not looking so chipper in that one.
No, he was already had dementia going on here. By the time he testified, he was like, hadn't even read his own report. I mean, it was pretty bad. So a lot of people don't really know who Robert Mueller is. And you have to understand that this man.
Hey, before we go on, did you see Brandy Cruz's post on this? Because that's how I found out about it.
What'd she say?
She posted on Donald Trump's comment. She said, Donald, you could also just say nothing.
Yeah, screw that. Absolutely screw that. That is the whole thing here. Okay. So there was a lot of reaction from people saying, well, Robert Mueller served this country, dutifully, and he was a former Marine.
Right.
He was just doing his job. We're going to debunk some of that today.
Okay.
And we're not going to go
good.
like crazy deep. We could do a whole episode on this. And gosh, man, if we could get more viewers and this thing paid a little more, we could spend some time doing these deep dives. But as it is right now, we're just going to be able to do the daily news commentary.
I think she was just like, trampling on somebody's grave is maybe not the best look, but I know Robert Mueller, he earned it, but whatever.
No, and see, her statement there is made out of ignorance. If she knew the other stuff, let's just take Trump out of it. Let's say Robert Mueller just died and he never investigated Trump.
Okay.
He's still one of the dirtiest cops this country has ever seen.
Absolutely.
Okay? So it's like you guys are just willingly blind to the carnage and the wreck that he left behind. Here was Scott Bessent on with Kristen Welker. This was a really good interview on Meet the Press this weekend. And she's asking Scott Bessent to basically try to condemn Trump for coming out against this public servant. And Scott Bessent has a pretty good take on this.
On a different topic about a post by President Trump from yesterday responding to the death of former special counsel Robert Mueller. He posted this, quote, "Robert Mueller just died. Good. I'm glad he's dead. He can no longer hurt innocent people." Do you think it's appropriate for the president of the United States to celebrate the death of an American citizen, someone who's a Bronze Star, Purple Heart recipient and who served in Vietnam?
Kristen, I was with the president in the green room at Davos, and there was a video playing of the what may have been an illegal raid on his home at Mar-a-Lago. They are going through his wife's wardrobe, and I watched the look in his eye, and I think that neither one of us can understand what has been done to the president and to his family.
But to the question of the president's post, I mean, Robert Mueller didn't order that raid. Is it appropriate for—
No, but he set up the dominoes in order for Jack Smith to do it. No Robert Mueller, no Jack Smith. Robert Mueller's brain got fried by the end of his investigation, which is why they had to bring in Jack Smith. Otherwise, it would have continued on.
The president to celebrate the death of any American citizen,
again,
Mr. Secretary?
I think that given what has been done to President Trump and his family, it is impossible for either of us to understand what he has been through.
Super
So
fair.
you don't think that there's anything wrong with the post saying, good, Robert Mueller's dead?
Again, I think that we should all have a little empathy for what has been done to him and his family.
All right. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent, thank you as always for being here. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay, so the Robert Mueller investigation, the Russia investigation, destroyed the lives of almost everybody it touched. It destroyed the life of Carter Page. He wasn't vindicated. He was vindicated, but not, in any meaningful way. It destroyed the lives of Michael Caputo, bankrupted him, put his family through hell. Eventually led, there's a straight line from Robert Mueller to my incarceration. Paul Manafort, completely innocent. No crime. None. Right? None. Putting him in solitary confinement for months on end as an 80-year-old man, trying to squeeze him to turn on the president. Totally. He did that. Robert Mueller did that. He had communication between the special counsel's office, because they were the ones prosecuting him, to the jail to basically put him in solitary while they were trying to get him to flip on Trump. He had nothing to flip. He had nothing to flip. Okay. Now let's dig a little deeper into Robert Mueller. Let's just look at some dates. Robert Mueller was the station chief for the FBI, not station chief, but the division director for the FBI at the same place where the hijackers were getting their training from 9/11. And then he was appointed director of the FBI, the 6th director of the FBI. Guess what the date was of his appointment? Go ahead, put it on the screen here. September 4th, 2001.
Oh my gosh.
So here's the FBI director that gets appointed. So there's a transition right as 9/11 pops off. And so who would be in charge of investigating all of the domestic part of that, right? And him. So, and then the other thing, guess what? He would have been the one that would have said, hey, there's no evidence of WMDs. He's a part of that cabal that sent us into Iraq and covered all that up.
Is he also part of is he also part of the Patriot Act?
Oh yeah. He was the first FBI agent that got to use it. The first FBI agent that got to use it. Bob Mueller ran the cover up for the CIA during the BCCI scandal. BCCI was the CIA money laundering bank where Osama bin Laden held multiple accounts from 1998 to 2001. Mueller ran the NorCal DOJ, where 4 of the 9/11 hijackers were active. Then 1 week before 9/11, he became the FBI head. Look at his face. So you look at I've paid attention to that one psychologist guy that talks about sociopaths and some of their characteristics. Yeah. There's no wrinkles in his forehead. This is a man who didn't think deeply. He's a Marine that just followed orders. And as such, look at the carnage. Now, I heard some people being like, but look at all the bad people he put away and look at all these kidnappers. And it's like, that would have happened anyways. Yeah. That's all done down at the local level. You think the director of the FBI is involved in a Mississippi kidnapping case? No, he's in charge of things like national security, counterintelligence. While he is the FBI Bureau of Investigation, my judge, Judge Lambert, was the secret FISA court chief judge. So this guy's going to my chief judge to get warrants to spy on who knows who, right? And nothing good comes of it. He was also part of the group that wanted to cover up the Saudi involvement in 9/11, which we're going to talk about that here in just a second. Ooh. John Kirkow,
close enough.
Kirikow, geez Louise, man. Kirikow, he talks about his 9/11 story, okay, about how Saudi's involvement, because he was a CIA officer during this time frame.
I believe that Al-Qaeda did 9/11, but I believe elements of the Saudi government were involved. I know for 100% fact that elements of both the Saudi government and the Saudi royal family were involved.
Now, let's break that down. The Saudi government was involved to the extent that the way the Saudi government is set up, it's a monarchy, right? So you have the king and you have literally like 10,000 nieces and nephews that are all princes. So they're all royal family. And there's a branch of Islam that's part of the Sunni sect that's called Wahhabism. And Wahhabism was kind of like the extreme end of that, the equivalent of what the Ayatollah in the Shia religion is. And they're extremists. And they're the ones that, kept women from driving, had the morality police and all that kind of stuff. That's majorly influential in Saudi Arabia. After 9/11, the king, right, basically said, we can't do this Wahhabism anymore. It's hurting us internationally. And some of you guys were involved in this 9/11 terror attack. They fixed the problem. Okay? They fixed the problem. And he turned over his kingdom to his son, Mohammed bin Salman, skipping over other people in the line of succession because Mohammed bin Salman was much more westernized and he wanted that. So Saudi Arabia did an internal correction over this.
Those 3 royal family members are no longer alive. I might as well just explain it. Look, when we caught Abu Zubaydah on the night of March 28th, 2002, we also confiscated his diary. I was leafing through the diary while I was sitting at the foot of his bed. He had the cell phone numbers of 3 Saudi princes. And I reported this back to headquarters, and headquarters just lit up on the Saudi royal family and said, look, either you get a hold of your family or we're going to do it. And we're going to start killing people. And some of them are going to be named Al Saud. So we said, we want to talk.
Saudi Arabia is the Al Saud family. Okay. That's the kingdom of Saud. Okay. We're going to knock them out.
Talk to these 3 princes. Well, next thing you know, one dies on the operating table during bariatric surgery. Oof. The second one was killed in a 1-car crash on the Riyadh to Jeddah highway. And the third went camping in the desert and died of thirst. And then we couldn't interview them. So yes, I believe the Saudis were involved. I believe the Israelis knew about 9/11 before it happened. And that's why we ended up with this inordinate number of Israeli intelligence agents in New York that day. And that's why we ended up with the so-called dancing Israelis, because they knew it was going to happen. They did nothing to stop it on purpose because they knew that we would attack Muslims. And we killed, 2 million Muslims over the next 20 years. And that was exactly what they wanted us to do.
So a little Israeli manipulation, a little Saudi manipulation. And it all kind of comes back again. One of the central figures in this whole story is Robert Mueller. Robert Mueller had a lead role in the most destructive lies of the 21st century so far, including weapons of mass destruction in the Trump-Russia election collusion. He is responsible for destroying countless lives while deceiving and dividing American people without consequence, one of the most malignant figures in U.S. history. And that comes from Julie Kelly. And I agree wholeheartedly. So the fact that Trump came out and said something, you should be very cautious of the people who were defending Robert Mueller. You're defending a corrupt cop. There's just no doubt about it. There's nothing about, go look at his entire service record. All the way back into the 80s, he was putting innocent men in jail who were then exonerated by evidence. And then he still wanted to keep them in jail because they didn't want to uncover the fact that they knew that they should have been exonerated and never charged in the first place. The corruption of Robert Mueller goes deep. Again, you look at his face. He's a sociopath. He's a guy who, The best thing you could say about him is he just did the bidding of his masters. The worst thing you can say about him is he's one of the leaders of the cabal, right? He's somewhere in between. Here's Robert Mueller testifying in front of the House Judiciary Committee. And this is our current director of the CIA, John Ratcliffe, who's grilling him about his report.
Is that fair?
Yeah. Yes, sir.
All right. Now, in explaining that special counsel did not make what you called a traditional prosecution or declination decision, the report on the bottom of page 2 of volume 2 reads as follows. The evidence we obtained about the president's actions and intent presents difficult issues that prevent us from conclusively determining that no criminal conduct occurred. Accordingly, while this report does not conclude that the president committed a crime, it also does not exonerate him. Now, I read that correctly?
Yes.
All right. Now, your report, and today you said at all times the special counsel team operated under, was guided by, and followed Justice Department policies and principles. So which DOJ policy or principle sets forth a legal standard that an investigated person is not exonerated if their innocence from criminal conduct is not conclusively determined?
Can you repeat the last part of that question?
Yeah. Which DOJ policy or principle set forth a legal standard that an investigated person is not exonerated if their innocence from criminal conduct is not conclusively determined? Where does that language come from, Director? Where is the DOJ policy that says that? Can you let me make it easier?
Go ahead.
Can you give me an example other than Donald Trump where the Justice Department determined that an investigated person was not exonerated because their innocence was not conclusively determined?
I cannot, but this is a unique situation.
Well, you can.
I cannot, but this is a unique situation. Are there unique situations in the United States? Isn't that the whole point of our justice system and equal treatment under the law and the 14th Amendment? Can there be unique situations? If you catch a person red-handed in the middle of a crime or a murder, do we send them straight to the guillotine? Do we just, we'll bypass the magistrate completely and go straight to the electric chair? Do we do that at all? Ever? Are there ever exceptions to due process? Are there supposed to be? No. Okay. No. So, this is a special circumstance. Oh, is that because you're painting Donald Trump with Hillary Clinton and everyone else's crimes?
Be short. I've got 5 minutes. Let's just leave it at you can't find it because I'll tell you why. It doesn't exist. The special counsel's job, nowhere does it say that you were to conclusively determine Donald Trump's innocence or that the special counsel report should determine whether or not to exonerate him. It's not in any of the documents. It's not in your appointment order. It's not in the special counsel regulations. It's not in the OLC opinions. It's not in the Justice Manual, and it's not in the principles of federal prosecution. Nowhere do those words appear together because respectfully, Director, it was not the special counsel's job to conclusively determine Donald Trump's innocence or to exonerate him because the bedrock principle of our justice system is a presumption of innocence. It exists for everyone. Everyone is entitled to it, including sitting presidents.
What's dirty about this is through his investigation, I think by the time he was appointed, most people knew Trump was not a Russian agent. Okay? You've already debunked some of the key points of the PP tapes or the PP dossier. Yeah. Trump didn't go to Moscow. Trump didn't get peed on by hookers. Michael Cohen didn't travel to Prague. It was someone else named Michael Cohen. It was just a disgusting mess. But the fact that we put Mueller in charge of it, some of the things we did find out, Jake Sullivan, who was Hillary Clinton's advisor and then became Biden's national security advisor. Jake Sullivan is the one who said that Alpha Bank was pinging Trump Tower and it's Russian. It's sourced from him. A rumor, literally a nothing burger. But yet what they did was they didn't just prove Trump was innocent. They actually went through and proved the source of the scams against Trump, but then still wouldn't exonerate Trump, even though you have other guilty parties. Mm-hmm. And that was what Durham was supposed to find out, the other guilty parties. And for the most part, Durham did discover all the guilty parties, but he was completely feckless when it came to holding anybody accountable. Meanwhile, Mueller had Manafort sitting in prison. He got, he ended up getting Roger Stone in that. He ended up getting, a bunch of collateral damage while he's investigating Trump. And George Papadopoulos served his prison term, right? Complete and total setup by Alexander Downer. And the whole thing is just Svetlana Lakova, General Flynn. I mean, all of these guys got wrapped up in this thing, completely had their lives destroyed. And what accountability has there been? None. I mean, literally none. Shantini says, so a little like Biden? Yeah, Robert Mueller and Biden. I think Robert Mueller taught the Democrats that, man, this was really good. Let's get a guy that's halfway not here. You know, his brain's halfway out the door anyways. And we can let the lieutenants run the show, like Weissman and a bunch of these other dirt bags that he had on his investigation team. And then Biden comes in. We see the same pattern. Biden has no idea what day it is or if he can even tie his shoes, but yet the auto pen is running full steam ahead. You know what I mean? I mean, how many times did they have to re-ink that thing? Holy smokes.
Man, you're on a roll.
It's one of those things that becomes personal.
Yeah.
Right? It's like, it's one thing to look at this from a 30,000 foot view and go, okay, let's call some balls and strikes. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, I was one of the pitches. You know what I mean? Like I got caught up in this too, because Robert Mueller covered up for 2016 election fraud and the psyops that it was. And had it gone the other way, had he exposed it and arrested the bad doers, no 2020.
Yeah.
No 2020. No Taylor going to protest a stolen election. No Taylor going to prison, right? That doesn't happen. So there's a line. Like, this is a cabal involved all the way through. No Robert Mueller, maybe no 9/11. If Robert Mueller had done his job, he might have arrested those hijackers in California that were in flight school with zero interest in learning how to land. Right. You know what I mean? If Robert Mueller, he could have looked and seen that John Brennan approved the passports for these people. He could have pointed the finger at the right people. He could have prevented the entire war in Iran, which would prevent the war in Iraq, which would have prevented, and the war in Afghanistan, which ultimately probably would have prevented this war in Iran.
Those are all solid points, Taylor.
But you know, Donald Trump, you could just say nothing. Why would I leave the American electorate uninformed on his malfeasances? All I said was he's dead. Good. He can't hurt innocent people. Those innocent people include 2 million Iraqis.
Can I get an amen?
Amen.
There we go.
Rush Limbaugh called it. He called it right in the middle of this whole thing.
We have been lied to ourselves. We have been misled. We have been misdirected by a willing accomplice drive-by media working with Robert Mueller and his staff of anti-Trump lawyers and the entire Democrat Party combined with the Washington establishment to create in the minds of the American people a story that didn't happen, couldn't happen, nobody can ever prove did happen.
See, Rush gets it.
Where is the tampering of votes? Where is the meetings? Where is the strategy? Where is the evidence that Trump got together with Russians to sabotage the Hillary campaign? Which is what everybody has been led to believe happened here. Robert Mueller has nothing, because there is nothing, on what everybody in this country has been misled to believe for the past 2 years.
What I wanted to say was, man, you're like channeling him. But
Rush Limbaugh?
Maybe it's the other way around.
You might be also involved in.
So James Comey got a criminal subpoena down to Florida to go testify in this grand conspiracy case, which Robert Mueller got subpoenaed to come appear before Congress, but he literally can't answer a question. He died peacefully in a nursing home, and you know, rest in peace, hopefully in hell. You know what I mean? Like, holy smokes. If you believe in reincarnation, hopefully he reincarnates as, like, you know, George Papadopoulos or something, and gets railed by a corrupt prosecutor. So James Comey got subpoenaed, and presumably there's other people. Brennan, I bet there's been like 150 of these criminal subpoenas put out for this grand jury down in Florida, which tells me a couple things. One, this grand conspiracy is broad, and there's zero chance that 150 people are going to have the exact same story. So you're going to have a whole lot of perjury traps and all kinds of things. So, you know, I feel very, very bad with a spirit of giddiness. You know, I feel bad because you're walking into a perjury trap, which you know well. You've set a lot of these up.
Well, you know how hot the furnace is.
Yeah, but the people walking in last to these subpoenas are going to have 150 other people pointing at you saying, you done it. And when you say, I didn't do it, they're going to be like, perjury. Okay. So John Brennan was on MS Now and responding to this. And guess what? He's sticking to it. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
You might be also involved in this.
Oh, boy.
What have you heard? Have you been subpoenaed? What do you make of this?
I think you mean against Jim Comey, because Jim Comey, myself, and others, you know, have received subpoenas from the Department of Justice about some grand conspiracy or the work that we did while we were in government, and we're going back basically 10 years or so. So, and David can speak to the retribution campaign that Donald Trump has been on. But this, I think, is an effort to try to harass and to try to ruin people professionally, personally, financially, and so on. And so it's very, very sad that, our government, our Department of Justice, is engaged in these types of activities. But again, I'm going to do what I need to do in order to ensure that I am following the law and continuing to say that I feel as though everything I did while I was director of the CIA was certainly consistent with my authorities and lawful and appropriate. I would have been derelict, and my colleagues at that time would have been derelict if we didn't expose Russian interference in the 2016 election.
Oh, really?
Okay.
Okay. I guess we'll go with it. So that's my take on Robert Mueller. Robert Mueller is part of this grand conspiracy. He's involved with Comey, Wray, Brennan, Jake Sullivan, Hillary Clinton, Barack Obama, Susan Rice, Valerie Jarrett, Samantha Powers, Kathy Rumner, Epstein. This all goes into it. You keep in mind, Mueller was the FBI director for a long time while Epstein was gallivanting around the world doing his thing. It's not like you didn't know. In fact, you know what I'm saying? Like, this is another one of those, like, hello, folks, he's not a good man.
Was Mueller on the jet going to the island?
He would have probably been a real boring guy to party with. You know what I mean? Just completely void in the brain, apparently. He's either extremely dumb, good at following orders, or he's a malignant, evil cancer that deserves whatever he gets in his final judgment. And that, yes, Brandy Cruz, you could just say nothing, but then you wouldn't do the service of allowing people on the internet to expose everything that Robert Mueller's been involved with all along. So Trump was right. I mean, again, Trump was right. There's not one thing that Trump has been accused of that has turned out to be anything significant. Utter and total nothing burgers.
I'm actually shocked that the Brennans and the Comeys around the world are not like starting to just drool, like, ooh, like.
Dude, I'd be dosing myself with arsenic to try to get out of it, So another huge thing happened over the weekend. Iran launched 2 missiles at Diego Garcia out in the middle of the Indian Ocean.
Okay.
Now, what's significant about that? It's twice the range that we thought they could shoot missiles.
Oh, snap.
So let me put this in perspective. Iran could hit London.
Okay, hold on. Hot take. If they could hit London and they would blow up a bomb as soon as they had it, how come London's still there?
Oh, maybe they were an imminent threat.
Oh, okay.
Because they've been making these missiles at a pretty fast clip since last summer, right? So our information publicly available, last summer, they could only shoot out 1,000 miles or whatever. Suddenly they can go 4,000 miles. And here's the thing. Once you cross a certain threshold of so many miles, your missile is in space. And suddenly that missile can't just go that far. It can go farther. Okay. There's a certain threshold where it's like exponentially distant.
So as long as the world's not flat, it could go all the way around.
Yes, that's the point. So all of a sudden, what happened? You've got guys like Piers Morgan, who for a long time have been like, well, they can only hit the Middle East, and what's the farthest? They can hit Tel Aviv, but that's about it. We're safe, we're sound, we're good. Right. And Piers Morgan puts out a post, which I didn't grab for this, I should have. And he's like, London's at risk. This is very concerning. Britain should wake them up, right? Because all of a sudden, the envelope of what potentially could happen when we talk about Iran being an imminent threat, this has been the intelligence isn't going. Okay. The public is very fickle, and the public gets freaked out, and the markets get freaked out. So if the intelligence agencies know that Iran has missiles that could hit England, that could hit London, and could hit everything in that circle, that's India. I mean, this is a big circle when you get that big.
Well, that gets up into Russia, right?
Oh, absolutely. Moscow, absolutely. Wow. Gets all of them. So if they can hit that far, you don't want to say anything because then it will cause public panic. And what else will it do? It will expose the politicians who have been playing footsie with Iran while they've developed the capacity to hit them with a missile. Okay. So they're going to keep it on.
Footsie's is lying.
Footsie's is.
They've been lying.
They've been lying. Exactly. So they want to keep it on the down low, but privately in their little skiff briefings, Trump is being briefed on this. It's like they are an imminent threat. They are an imminent threat. And if they get a nuke and they can attach it to one of those missiles, now we can do nothing about them. You've got the Pakistan problem. Okay. So that is why they're an imminent threat. That's why we moved. And then all of a sudden they launched these missiles to Diego Garcia, and nation states in the NATO, that's all of NATO right there, right? They're like, oh, hey, yeah, about that, about the Strait of Hormuz, we're more than willing to come and help. You know what I mean? Because all of a sudden they realize they're now exposed. Yes, Iran's capacity was way more than what the public knew, and maybe what some of these politicians knew, because inside these intelligence circles, they're going to keep that information pretty tight. So that's a big deal. Here's Fox News talking about that.
One of the things we hear a lot about in these conflicts is an escalation ladder. And when Iran fired the intermediate range ballistic missiles at Diego Garcia that Trey mentioned, 4,000 kilometers from Iran, that was an escalation that not only stunned the U.S., but the entire world, because Iran had not publicly stated that they had anything that could go more than 2,000 kilometers. And yet here now we know they have two 4,000 kilometer range intermediate missiles that fortunately did not impact anything, but it's a warning. It's a message that they have these capabilities that they didn't publicly state. In fact, under President Obama's JCPOA, there was no restriction on Iran's missile capabilities. They said they weren't building it. Now we know. And what is the danger? Why is the world on notice? Because look, from Rome, Munich, Paris, London, Berlin, Oslo, all now within this radius, these capitals, and many of these capitals in these countries do not have the missile interceptor technology like we have and like Israel has. So should a nuclear-tipped intermediate-range ballistic missile be fired at one of these capitals, it could change the trajectory of humanity as we know it.
That was what Piers Morgan said. We're sitting ducks. Yeah, but don't worry, your little brother USA, England, we're here to help. Don't worry, your long lost cousins. Okay. Thank goodness that War of Independence. Otherwise, we'd be led by Keir Starmer right now. Oh, man. So Trump put out a post on Saturday that said, late Saturday, that said Iran has 48 hours to open the Strait of Hormuz, or we're going to start bombing power plants, starting with the biggest one first.
Oh, boy.
Now, obviously, the first gut reaction you have is that's going to put the Middle East in blackout, or Iran in blackout, and that's going to cause all kinds of problems. Yep, it will. It'll be really bad. It'll be really bad. But you have to understand something. They just launched a missile to Diego Garcia, which could reach London. And as we're going to hear a little bit later, their leadership is decapitated. So a lot of these missiles are being launched by basically privateers at this point.
Oh,
right?
Boy.
They're not taking, the central command is, the whole thing's broken down. So how do you prevent a missile from being launched if you can't take out the launch pads?
Take away the batteries.
Take away the batteries, take away the power. It's really hard to program into that computer the launch coordinates when the computer won't turn on. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, these are not like mortars that you drop into a thing and they're all pneumatic. They require a lot of power. Now, maybe there's generators, maybe there's not, or they're probably all hooked up to the grid.
Oh, yeah.
Pretty simple. So if you bomb the generators on the outside and the grid's not there, you probably neuter their entire launch capacity. So good news, because the 48 hours is like now. Good news is we ended up not having Trump going after the power grid. He posted this early this morning. Maybe it was late last night. I don't know. I woke up to this. I am pleased to report that the United States of America and the country of Iran have had, over the last 2 days since the post, very good and productive conversations regarding a complete and total resolution of our hostilities in the Middle East. Complete and total resolution of our hostilities in the Middle East. We'll see. These guys haven't been the most reliable people making promises. Based on the tenor and tone of these in-depth, detailed, and constructive conversations, which will continue throughout the week, I have instructed the Department of War to postpone any and all military strikes against Iranian power plants and energy infrastructure for a 5-day period. So we have a 1-week respite, or through the end of the week. Subject to the success of the ongoing meetings and discussion. Thank you for your attention to this matter, President Donald J. Trump.
Well, he got their attention. It looks like it was the right thing to threaten him with.
And I'll tell you, if there's one thing you can say about Donald Trump is he doesn't bluff. A lot of world leaders are like, this is the first guy in a long time that when he says, I'll bomb you, He bombs you before he says he would. Okay. Yep, I'm coming in the next week or two. He's there in 3 days. Okay. I mean, just ask Maduro how it went for him. Again, the United States is also demonstrating its utter and total military superiority. Oh, yeah. This can't be lost on you. Okay. Russia and China have been selling weapons to every tin pot dictator and up and coming country on the planet. India, all the nations in Africa, South America, a lot of the Middle East, they're buying Russian equipment, Russian anti-air missiles, Chinese, radar systems. And guess what? They've all been proven completely ineffective against the American might. Period. What technology we're using, Space Force, I don't know. The discombobulator seems kind of fun, but they've had no defense against it. So every country that wants to stand firm and keep their sovereignty is suddenly realizing we literally couldn't stop a Black Hawk from flying over here. I mean, Venezuela couldn't even stop the United States military from flying into the middle of the country, landing in their largest military base and capturing Maduro, reading him his rights and hauling out of there without losing a single American soldier.
And blowing up the Che Guevara.
And by the way, Venezuela had a lot of missile defense and air defense and radar systems, and it was completely useless. Iran has been, they've done nothing but spend money on their military for the last 40 years, right? Okay, you got some rocket launches, but not much. You got these drones. So basically every country in the world is realizing all they have is asymmetrical warfare using drones. That's it. You can't do radar. You can't do intercontinental ballistic missiles. I mean, sure, those are all great tools, but America and its allies have a system that shoots down Russian and Chinese missiles, but they have nothing that seems to shoot down ours. Right? So this whole, Israel started this whole strike on by flying a jet close to the space, launching a missile up into space and dropping it straight down on the Ayatollah's head, which completely bypassed any radar. And they did it from an F-14. Okay? Clearly, we've overthought this. So Iran is basically being led by who? Nobody.
Okay. NBC News is reporting that President Trump is considering sending troops into Iran. Will the administration use troops to secure the Strait of Hormuz or for any other reason, Mr. Secretary?
Again, as President Trump said during the press break yesterday when he was going out to Marine One, he's not going to give away what we're going to do. He's, as President Trump always does, he's leaving all options on the table. We had a very successful bombing campaign against the military installations at Karg Island, the nexus for all the Iranian oil supply. What could happen with Karg Island, we'll see. And again, just to be clear, the command and control system of the Iranian regime is in chaos. This is Hitler's bunker. Hitler's dead. Himmler is dead. Goring is dead. Most of what you're seeing are lone wolf activities. The mid-range ICBM that was shot off, these 2 missiles yesterday, that's out of desperation, Kristen.
Yeah, that's out of desperation. But they also, again, consolidated support around what Donald Trump and Israel are doing in Iran. Because all of a sudden, even London is like, oh, geez. But by the way, London, City of London, downloading my episodes, I'm kind of sick of it. Okay, move out of the City of London. I don't want anybody in the City of London downloading this episode. Same thing with Tel Aviv. I don't want you. If I could block you, I would. Okay. So there's no central command going on in Iran right now, which the lone wolves are very dangerous. What if that missile shot at Diego Garcia hit Diego Garcia? And then you've got counter narrative people who are like, well, there's no evidence that Iran shot the missile. Maybe Israel shot it and made it look like Iran. Why would they do that at this point?
Yeah, why would they shoot the missile south? Why would they just point it north?
Well, the idea was to try to create more, let the people know that they had the capability, even though they don't have the capability.
Sure.
There's a whole universe of I don't know what to call them quite yet. Black pillars, dissidents, anti-Americanists that are really trying to peddle this narrative that the West isn't worth saving, and we don't have all the power, and we're gonna talk about a few of these here.
So those people are probably also anti-Christian, and
well, who knows? We'll introduce you to a few. This right here, this was on the Peter McCormick show, and they had what's this guy's name? His name is Simon Dwix Twit. Is his name, and he's by far the most eloquent explanation of what's going on in the Middle East. I had to watch this a couple times for the information to sink in. This is just a sample of what he dissected. So in my opinion, this guy is 3/4 correct. 1/4, he suffers from the lack of information and imagination that many people suffer from. So let's take a listen to this. But he's talking about how the world and the markets see this Iran conflict as temporary. Otherwise, we'd see a different reaction in the markets.
You can tell this is fake because right now, if this was real, not only would you have an increase in the price of oil, but gold would be soaring as well. Gold's not soaring right now. Gold's been flat, if not down, while oil's rising. That means the insiders in the market know that there's a time frame on this war and it's not a forever war. If this was going to blow up the Middle East, gold would be going through the roof and oil would be going through the roof in sync. It's not. So there's going to be an offboard and everyone needs a three-way narrative. Israel needs to say, we did the decapitation campaigns, we chopped off the head of the snake. Meanwhile, it's burdened with debt and it's got less military, all degraded. The Gulf countries will renegotiate those contracts with some American, some China, most Russia and China. In terms of those bases probably won't be rebuilt for American interest. America's now an energy exporter. It gets Europe, it gets Central and South America. And then what did the Gulf countries do in their retaliation? They said, we're reconsidering our investments in the US. Trump said, we've got 18 trillion investment, 18 trillion. Foreign direct investment means you're acquiring the assets of America so you can leverage America. And so they said, we're going to rethink those. What were those, the ones they're going to rethink? Those were mainly defense and artificial intelligence. That's what all the investment was. They said, we're going to rethink it.
This is where I think he's wrong. Okay. I think they're going to rethink their investment. If anything, they're going to rethink it to buy more of it. It's kind of like the issue with the Kosovo war and the MiG jets that got shot down by the F-14 Tomcats. It was like 82-0. Okay. So 82 MiGs got shot down and not one American fighter jet got shot down. And what did we hear a couple weeks ago? They couldn't give away a MiG after that. They got relegated to like county air shows. Okay. Hey, you want to see a jet? It's not good for anything, but it can go straight up. You know what I mean? Like that's what's going on. So they're like, oh, we're going to rethink. Who are you going to buy your defense stuff from after this? You think you're going to go shop some Russian stuff, shop some Chinese goods that have been proven completely useless in every theater that they've been used in?
Might as well go to the surplus store.
Yeah. So I think he's wrong on that. He's saying they're going to move away from that investment. I think they're going to double down on it. Right. That's my opinion.
That creates a problem with the AI trade in America. You get a correction of the market. You get the private credit market blowing up.
What's the timescale on all this?
Exactly. What is happening in April? In April is the China summit, which is a meeting between President Trump and Xi Jinping. It will be done by April, is my prediction.
April.
Yeah. So in that meeting will be the official You'll probably need you'll need a Hollywood movie from Trump. Trump needs a Hollywood movie. So he will probably do something similar to the 12-day war where he had Operation Midnight Hammer. He came in with the B-52 bomber, America looking like the king of the world, comes along, strategically takes out some of the highly enriched uranium. If you remember, the Bitcoin mining crashed by like 25% when it happened. And then you get the theater, you get the movie, and we retreated. We took out Khamenei. He'll have his narrative of MAGA. MAGA will be happy because they're like, yeah, you're not the neocon. You're not doing the forever war. You're not doing Afghanistan. You're not doing Iraq. You're not doing that anymore. Israel will have, we decapitated. It will be regime change this year. He'll be gone. It will be, a GCC and Turkey aligned puppet government in Israel that's no longer funded.
That's where I don't believe that. I believe Netanyahu, and this is what Catherine Austin Fitts says, Netanyahu is trying to get rid of the British banking influence in Israel, which is why they had to reform the Supreme Court, because the Supreme Court in Israel was still part of England's King's Court. Okay. So they had to redo their judicial system so that they weren't so beholden to Britain. So I don't know that Netanyahu gets regime changed. He might, run out his political time, but I don't think you're going to get a puppet state of Islam in Jerusalem. That's my opinion.
By U.S. military. Okay. And Iran will be fully online with China's plan. I guarantee you in the next few years, there will be gas pipelines between the Gulf countries and Iran. Iran won't have sanctions. And Iran will open up its economy to, and probably what they're negotiating over now is the FIC probably in a new multipolar world wants some private corporate interest in the Strait of Hormuz so that IRGC don't have full autonomy to close it again. And they'll try and get some strategic ports. BlackRock will end up with some kind of deal from that. And we'll end up where the massive amount of money that can be made from deals in Iran, deals in Syria, deals in Lebanon, deals in the Gulf countries, deals across Saudi. It will be the highest growth opportunity in the world. And they will sit between a falling US empire, which is increasingly vassalized, and a rising China that's building out Africa. And why do they need Africa? It's the only one that's still having children right now. They need the birth rates. So you put everyone else in an AI, robotics, and police state, so you can deal with all the civil unrest that comes from it. So if you are now losing your primary source of profit, which was war in the Middle East, you need civil unrest within Europe, but not where it affects the stock market, just where it extracts wealth and extracts more resources. But we can't have absolute chaos. So we need Palantir. We need a police and surveillance state. We need digital ID. We need central bank digital currencies. What else did happen? Taiwan, this is interesting. What happened during this war? They said in order to preserve energy, because not Taiwan, Thailand, sorry. In order to preserve energy, everyone needs to stay at home, work from home. The pandemic narrative ain't going to work again. So now they've created another one. In order to preserve energy costs, please everyone stay at home. We need to save energy while we deal with this crisis.
Okay. Old paradigm, new paradigm. What is the flaw in his working theory? At the end, he reveals it. America's on the decline and China's on the rise. What did Mike Cernovich tell us at the beginning of this? The fact that our tech, our military tech is so superior, can you really make an argument that America's on the decline and China's on the rise, and in a head-to-head we would lose? That's the working presumption that we have. This is the Ray Dalio thing. Oh, we're on the decline. Technology changes that, right? The nuclear weapon changed it. We weren't on the rise until we invented the nuke. And then we took over the entire system with the Bretton Woods Agreement because we had the nuke and could enforce the trade routes, right? So we now have the discombobulator. And, put any tech in there, Rod of God, Space Force, all that stuff. We have tech.
Well,
they
I
don't
think that
have.
we got a bunch of tech that me and you don't even understand.
Absolutely not. Okay. And Palantir, okay, everybody wants to make Palantir out to be that it's going to create our control grid. But you listen to Alex Karp and he's like, no, I'm going to let you guys be free. Palantir is so that we can strategically attack all those guys with coordinated AI swarms. And that's what we just did. Okay. So this idea that China's on the rise, yes, they were based on this old model of thinking when you don't insert new military tech. And there's been freakouts about hypersonic missiles. Where have they been? Where have they been with these hypersonic missiles? Where have they been? I thought Iran was loaded up with hypersonic missiles. They didn't use any. Where are they? Oh, maybe they're not as functional as they think. You know what I'm saying? Maybe it's more hype than anything else.
Maybe it's still just a Popular Mechanics ad.
Exactly. Now, I'm not saying they don't exist, but clearly they didn't have a big enough arsenal to use. Otherwise, they absolutely would have. Right. So again, there's a working presumption. China's on the decline or on the rise and America's on the decline.
Well, they would have used them if the whole assumption that they would blow up the bomb as soon as they had it is to be believed.
Yeah. Now, where do we get the assumption that America's on the decline and China's on the rise?
Same place we got the Steele dossier.
Same place we got the Steele dossier. Exactly. So there's this professor that shows up on social media all the time. And this guy, actually, there's clips that have surfaced with him saying he's going to start a religion and I'm going to be the savior of it. So this guy's actually trying to create a cult following. Okay. He literally says, I want to be a cult leader. No, it's aspirational. I mean, who wouldn't want to be, right? So this is Professor Zhang. Says the United States should willingly forfeit its role as the #1 global superpower to China and Russia. to which Tucker Carlson agrees and then blames Israel for preventing what happens. This is the kind of thing that has permeated the zeitgeist amongst libertarians and amongst people who, claim to see the world from these very practical eyes. Okay. It's this, and it's guys like Professor Zhang that is prolific on social media.
Before we play this clip, I've actually seen clips of this guy, and he's a pretty smart dude. What else can you tell us about him? Because he is so smart. He can be convincing.
Okay. We can all be. Let's put myself in his same category.
Okay.
Right. You rattle off some perspectives, some factoids, some information, and you tie a narrative together. Great. It's compelling. It's convincing. Okay. But from where does he tell the story? I tell the story from the peasant's perspective.
Okay.
I care about you. I care about your family. I care about your table. Why? Because I care about mine. Who does he care about? China. China. He wants China to be on the rise. Does he speak great English? Yes. Does he read all the same international studies books I have? Yes. Does he throw out the jargon? Yes. Does he read probably Jacques and Rousseau? Yes, but he prefers Lenin and Marx, right? So that's the thing. Is he smart? Absolutely. But from where does he have his perspective? Right. And this is where I start to struggle with Tucker Carlson. I like Tucker Carlson. I think he's very intelligent, but he's losing touch in the name of America and America first. I think Tucker Carlson has gone overboard in trying to overcorrect for his error in buying into the Russian narrative. And his error for believing people like Robert Mueller for 20
I think
years.
this is why I wanted to add more color, because people know who Tucker Carlson. They don't know this guy, and they're probably going to listen to him.
His pendulum has swung too far, Tucker Carlson, in my opinion, which is why he ends up having this interview with this guy. And it's a complete,
Okay,
so
let's
you
watch
hate
the
America?
Clip. So what I would do is basically sit down everyone, okay, including Russia, China, Iran, and say, it's time for a new.
Oh, because that's practical. What I would do is I'd sit everybody on the table. That's the answer to everything. If we could all just sit around and talk.
Kumbaya.
Kumbaya. Isn't that how the socialists and the communists? Let's just talk about it. Let me just tell you a little bit about my hero, Karl Marx. You know what I mean? Let's just sit down and talk. We all have level heads. See, and he will talk about the theology of Iran and the theology of Israel. You're bypassing that when you say this, okay?
World order where we are partners in this relationship, right? Before America was the hegemon, before the US dollar was the world reserve currency. But now what we want to do is open a dialogue where everyone is respected, where America is no longer the bully, but a willing partner in creating a new economic order that benefits everyone and not just a few.
I think that's the wisest possible advice and probably the only path that preserves civilization. But the one country standing in the way of that is Israel.
Oh, but what about the discombobulator? Tucker? He has another video that's circulating around talking about we could eliminate all poverty just by printing more money and give it because it's just an idea. And I'm like, no, we tried that. We've been trying that since 1913.
Okay, I got it. This is the Robert Kiyosaki of China.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah, but he really did. He's like, we can just print money because it's not real, and we could eliminate poverty. It's like, well, if you just print all the money, this goes back to Jesus. The poor ye have with you always. There's a spectrum to this. Okay. So you could print all the money and give it to people to pay for things, but that's called Section 8. That's called welfare. I mean, if you make no money, the United States will give you 60 grand a year. Guess what? You're still poor. And so is the teacher that doesn't take the benefits that makes 60 grand a year. They're still poor too, right? Where it used to be the teacher could make a living and actually survive. Now they can't. They may as well quit their job and go on social services.
A falling tide sinks all boats.
Where does this come from? This is coming from our education system. Gad Saad posted this. Imagine screaming death to America for 47 years, and then when no one hopefully notices, send your children to be educated by the great Satan. So these are children of the Iranian leaders. Daughter of military leader. These are professors at U.S. colleges. She teaches at Emory University. She's the daughter of the military leader Ali Larijani at Emory University. You've got Leah Khatami, daughter of ex-president Mohammed Khatami at Union College in New York. So this is Georgia. You've got California, Isa Hassimi, son of Iranian cabinet member. Okay. You've got at University of Massachusetts, daughter of intelligence officer. Okay. You've got at University of Illinois, Urbana Campaign, daughter of Ayatollah Saeed Mustafa Ahmadabadi. You've got S.M. Kobart, son of medical minister at George Washington University. And there's others. Imagine sending your kids to school to be taught by the leaders of the Iranian guys who literally get into their parliament and chant death to America. And then they come here and they're like, America's on the decline. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Now, more of this. This is Douglas McGregor, right? Who for years has made the rounds bad-mouthing the United States in a very passive-aggressive way. And at the launch of this Iranian thing, he spouted off a whole bunch of nonsense that turned out to be and false information.
China and Russia are sitting on the sidelines monitoring everything. They're in close touch with the government. They're providing satellite intelligence, which accounts for some of
which now they say they're not providing any of that, according to our sources.
Is that really sitting on the sidelines? If you're providing data?
Here's the thing. They didn't do it.
Oh.
So whoever was telling him that they're providing satellite information, both of them have said, no, we weren't. We don't have that capability.
For some of the tremendous successes, particularly in Israel and on our U.S. bases. All of our bases have been destroyed.
Have they? It doesn't sound like it.
Our harbor installations are destroyed. We're actually having to fall back on India.
Okay, so that's all Iranian misinformation, right? Launched out by AI videos and stuff like that. That apparently this prestigious Colonel McGregor that gets on really, I'd love to be on OAN. I mean, it would really boost our show numbers, wouldn't it? Totally false.
And Indian ports, which are less than ideal. That's what the Navy says. And
but yet we've been using Diego Garcia pretty much this whole time. So we haven't been going out to India. In fact, we've been killing Iranian ships that have been coming out of India.
I think Iran, much to our disappointment, is faring very, very well. China.
So they're faring very, very well. Are they? We now have negotiations and basically an end to hostilities. So Colonel McGregor, your sources are not very good. Tucker Carlson, have you ever heard of the discombobulator?
The U.S. is not going to defend and cannot defend Taiwan.
Oh, really? Are you sure? Positive about that?
Now,
Should not defend?
I don't know, should? I don't, that's something.
I mean, I'm asking you to lay out what you think are coherent.
I think we've reached the limits of our power, and power has limits. Like, that's another thing just to keep in mind. Power is not infinite. You can squander it. And we're in the process of doing
And what
that.
about Japan and South Korea?
Oh, man, it's hard. I don't understand exactly how that's going to go at all from an American perspective. But like, in the end, big powers want to and get to control their regions. We have something called the Monroe Doctrine. This was another problem I had with Russia. It's like Russia, of course, is going to demand influence in Ukraine. And you could say, oh, it's a sovereign country. They can't have any influence there. Be real. A big power wants to control, hopefully in a non-brutal, enlightened way, but they want some influence over their neighbors. We can no longer be the sole author of terms, of commerce, of anything. We have to share power.
With China?
Of course, because of their scale. And so there's got to be a non-destructive way to do this.
Okay, but what is their scale? See, now we go back to, again, if you're a daily listener of the show, we talked about China's fraud in their population count.
Because they're not really over 1 billion people.
Maybe closer to 400 to 500 million, which puts them at on par with us.
Yes.
And they still can't feed themselves, and they still can't provide energy for themselves, and they knock everything off. They don't innovate anything.
Do they still have the one-child policy too?
No, but they're not having kids because why would you? Okay. So again, you're at the point where it's like you're only as good as the information you have. And if you've been listening your whole life to Professor Zhang and these Iranian professors that come teach in our schools and these other Marxist professors that are, think Che Guevara and Hugo Chavez were, international heroes, then you have the impression that America is on the decline. I don't know. I think America has been apathetic. I think we've leaned on our technology. I think we've leaned on our massive Navy, which dwarfs everyone else's, by the way.
Sure.
But as we've proven this calendar year, we have no rivals. If China could defend Iran, they would. They're starving for energy right now.
If we declined by 50%, we would still be on top.
Who knows? That's the thing. All it took was one nuclear weapon. And all of a sudden, the whole world had to take a back seat. We've just proven that you can't prevent us from coming in and taking your sovereign leader. Okay. Venezuela was armed to the teeth with defense, armed to the teeth. And we flew in there with freaking helicopters like it was nothing. We have no rival, none. We can jam your systems. We can fry your brains, right? We can observe every word that's being spoken over the digital airwaves through the NSA. And now we have AI, which is scooping it up and listening to it. Okay. So this idea that we're on the decline, it comes from bot farms. Let me show you this right here. This was down in Brazil, and this is like a couple times I've shown you this. These bot farms where you have cell phones that are all wired together and being controlled. This was in Brazil. And this is what swayed the people that spend their whole time just online and don't have any real world practical experience, is they get sucked into this idea that what's online and what's trending is real. Here's a little bot farm. Okay. And look at all these cell phones. They're all running the exact same YouTube channel over and over and over again. This is how you get things trending and make things seem like it's real and legitimate. This is the thing we refuse to do. Okay. This is unbelievable. Again, it's happening everywhere. This happens in the United States. In fact, here locally in Bremerton, I can't confirm how this happened, but some guys that live in Bremerton that may or may not be associated with Antifa were not inside their house. And there might have been some people who broke into the house to snoop around. And guess what they found in this house in Bremerton? A small bot farm like that in the closet. So Antifa was making money by basically making stupid videos and then having a small bot farm in their closet that would replay these videos over and over and over and every day to generate ad revenue, which would then fund their narrative. And guess what? Their electric bill was being paid by welfare stuff, so they weren't paying for the electricity to run this little bot farm. That was here locally in Bremerton.
Let me tell you how to run your world.
Yeah,
let's run your own bot farm. Here's a little inside scoop that many creators are talking about behind the scenes. It's actually one of the reasons I'm using Rumble. They made a way to super chat creators so you get paid immediately and without any fees. YouTube and Twitch take up to 50% fees when you tip creators. This method takes none. That's right, the platform takes 0 fees. I keep nearly 100% of what you send me. You can super chat with Bitcoin, Tether USD, or even Tether Gold stablecoins. The tip will show up directly in our Rumble chat, which I'll do my best to read. All you need to do is download the Rumble wallet on the App Store and send tips to your favorite creators. You can go to wallet.rumble.com, or you can download the app directly from the app stores. Seriously, what an amazing way to get rid of the middleman and help the creator economy. Shout out to Rumble for making this disruptive technology. Boom.
Great. So, yeah, I think I had a conversation with someone yesterday about Bitcoin, and even with America resolving whatever we have in Iran and stuff like that, what are the markets going to do? Because one of the big drivers of gold was BRICS. Well, BRICS is broken into pieces right now. So who's going to be buying the gold? So then it becomes, well, who's going to be buying the Bitcoin? And I have an easy answer. Eric Trump. If you don't think America is moving towards a Bitcoin, right, whether you like it or not, whether you like the control grid or not, we're clearly moving towards blockchain and Bitcoin. And Eric Trump is setting up these server farms in order to do it. And the Trump family absolutely knows the only way to maintain national sovereignty is for families and individuals to maintain personal sovereignty. They're moving to Bitcoin. Okay. Yep. So just FYI, that's like the reality. The dollar might be on the rise for a little bit because that's what we're going to force other people to buy our oil and our energy and our military tech with. But we're going to be based in Bitcoin, I believe. And if you don't think it's super important, this technology stuff and the influence that goes on, most of what you hear on the news and what gets into the zeitgeist that Trump's a Russian spy, it all originates online. And those narratives get pushed out to be larger than life by those bot farms. And now AI, just like Google has done with its curated posts and what you see at the top versus what's on page 97 that no one clicks on, right? It's controlling things. So check this out. This is ChatGPT, which again, don't use ChatGPT, don't use Claude, don't use Anthropic. The only AI that makes any sense is Grok. Okay. Or none, whatever you want, but I wouldn't get left behind. here's this. This is GPT-4, and it's being asked about different campaigns and their website links and stuff like that. Check this out. Any link for Republicans that ties to WinRed, which is the fundraising platform for the Republicans, ChatGPT-4 posts as an unsafe link. Okay. But every link that goes to Democrats, it posts as a safe link. Imagine that. Imagine that. So every time you want to look up Republicans, it tells you, you don't want to go to this website. The link might not be safe. It's not safe. It's not safe to go there. But for Democrats and Act Blue, oh yeah, head on over there. Even though Act Blue has been caught red-handed smurfing. Excuse me. Scott Bessent was on with Kristen Welker, and we're going back to this interview now. We're gonna shift back here to the winning side of things. Trump is playing a very high-level game here. He's got this chessboard out, and one of the things that has to happen is you don't want people to be destroyed as collateral damage. You don't want Japan, South Korea, Thailand, some of our allies to be without power, right? So you've got to keep the oil flowing, and you've got sanctioned oil from Russia and Iran just floating out in the middle of the ocean that traditionally have been selling it to China. But now we've kind of put the pinch on that. They can't get that oil, but it's still sitting out there, but they need it. Otherwise, power's going to run out at some point. So Scott Bessent wisely and Trump wisely have been using this sanctioned oil as a bargaining chip to kind of string things along and redirect the flow of money. And he's on with Kristen Welker, and she, again, her and the people that prepped her show are kind of dumber than rocks when it comes to the big picture on this stuff. And they get stuck in absolutions. Like, for example, it's never good to allow Russia to get oil revenue, or it's never good to have Iran get oil revenue. And Scott Bessent says something like they were already going to get it. But don't you think it's powerful now that we can control who gets it?
Why don't we have good facts here? That Iranian oil was always going to be sold to the Chinese. It was going to be sold at a discount. So which is better, Kristen? Which is better? If oil prices spiked to $150 and they were getting 70% of that, or oil prices below 100, it's better to have them where they are now. And to be clear, we had always planned for this contingency. About 140 million barrels are out on the water. In essence, we are jujitsuing the Iranians. We are using their own oil against them. We have a much better line of sight, to be clear, at Treasury when this oil goes to. If it goes to Indonesia, if it goes to Japan, if it goes to Korea, we have a much better line of sight and are able to block accounts that the oil goes into. When it goes into China, it completely gets recycled. So to be clear, that 14 billion number is grossly overstated.
Let me unpack what you're just saying. First of all, how much is it? And second of all, I don't hear you disputing that Iran will get some of the money.
Iran already gets a huge amount of the money because Iran is the largest sponsor of state terrorism, and China has been funding them.
So it was always part of the plan to unsanction Iranian oil?
Again, we unsanctioned the Russia. At Treasury, we plan for all contingencies. We have break the glass plans, and to be able, this oil is floating out in Asia. And it is mostly our Asian allies. The U.S. gets virtually no oil from the Gulf. We are energy sufficient. So when we unsanction this, rather than the oil going to China, it can go to Japan, it can go to Korea, it can go to Indonesia, it can go to Malaysia.
And it can go to Iran too. I mean, isn't the point that the sanctions were in place to prevent Iran from getting any of the money? They will have access to some of the money now.
Again, Kristen, you're missing the point. So please listen to me. They were getting it from China anyway.
Hello? They were getting it from China anyways, but now we can have them deliver it somewhere else. Oh, they're still going to get the money. Yeah, but China, remember, they're on the rise, right, Kristen? All of a sudden, they're on their knees begging for oil. From who? Please, big bad America, can you let us have a shipment? Do you see the difference here? This is absolute mastery.
All right, let me talk about the real world impact of this, because you're talking about 140 million barrels of Iranian oil, and that's just a little bit more than what the world uses in one day. How much can that really change prices here?
Again, Chris, terrible framing. terrible framing.
Well, how much can it change prices here at home? Talk to consumers. How much will it change prices here at home?
Let me explain. 140 million barrels, about 20 million barrels a day comes out of the Gulf. About 5 million has been repurposed by the Saudis, by the UAE. So we're at a 15 deficit. About 1.5 is Iranian oil that comes out. So we are at between a 10 and 14 million deficit on a daily basis. So if you think about 140 million barrels, that's between 10 days and 2 weeks of supply. And one of the reasons that prices in the U.S. of West Texas crude are below $100, and we have not seen this massive spike as we did during the beginning of Russia-Ukraine, is because we are well supplied in the market, whether it is the Russian oil, whether it is the Iranian oil, or it is the largest, the SPR release in history done by a coalition of 32 countries, 400 million barrels.
So they've got it pretty well mapped out here on how they can now control the oil, which is the whole point of the petrodollar. And when you've got a loose end like Iran selling oil on the black market to China and Russia, who we're trying to sanction to death, what did Marco Rubio say? Sanctions aren't going to work in 5 years because these guys can trade Bitcoin, they can trade gold, they can trade in their own currencies and just, you know what I mean? Like, we're not going to be able to do that for very long. So taking Iran off the map, putting Russia back in the game, right? Turning them into an ally from an enemy by allowing them to sell this oil to our allies is a really big deal. And at the end of the day, who hurts the worst? China. At the end of the day, who hurts the worst? China. All the people that study China say they're within 10 years of a natural collapse.
Oof.
Population decline. That's why they need Africa. Population decline. The people have had it with the CCP. The only way they keep their power is through raw totalitarian force.
Is this the last dynasty?
It's probably the last. Well, they'll just do another dynasty. I mean, China's not going to be China for a while, right? But the communism element of it is on its last grasp. And communism has to cannibalize everybody else. It must weaponize your virtue. It must get you to sacrifice for you for the collective. And who's running the collective? I don't know. That guy up there with the Rolls Royce. You know what I mean? It's the Animal Farm effect. So these guys are now at the Animal Farm effect, where they're at the table with the book Animal Farm. The pigs and the farmers at the end sitting around the table. The pigs, Chinese Communist Party, are sitting there with the farmers, the capitalists, going, "Please, sir, can I have some oil? Please, sir, can I get some help with some things?" Now, China's got some cards, right? Pharmaceuticals and things like that, which have probably been why we haven't taken them head on, but we've definitely been climbing up the ladder to get to them. And one of those stepping stones is Cuba. China is super involved in intelligence gathering, but Cuba is the boots on the ground. Cuba is everywhere. It's everywhere through North and South America. It's infiltrated our own U.S. government. They are the arm of the Communist Party that foment revolution and political change inside of the Western Hemisphere and all over the place. Mark Victor Hansen talks about this, and I think he has a really good take on this, because part of this whole thing is Cuba's in total blackout right now. They haven't had a shipment of oil since December. Allegedly, there were some Russian tankers heading towards Cuba to provide some oil, and the United States was like, "Ha ha, that's cute. That's cute. Go ahead and redirect those to our allies. They ain't going to Cuba." Meanwhile, Code Pink, who's funded by Neville Singman, the Chinese billionaire out of Singapore, right, funds Code Pink. He sent a whole airplane load of American socialists down to Cuba to, tell them that we love them and provide support and, keep on with the communist agenda. Confirmed reports. Cuba's out of oil. Cuba doesn't have power. They've got some generators running, and one of those generators was running a hospital with, people on ventilators and stuff like that. They sent down this group of socialists to go party. I think Hassim Pike or whatever his name is, a bunch of them. They all went down there. And according to this one guy's live stream, he's like, "We're living the Vida Loco." And he's like touring around with some of these communist leaders. So they redirected power from the hospital to a hotel where they were having this party. And then, of course, there was massive security around the hotel.
Oh, boy.
Every single person in the hospital on a ventilator and on life support died. Every single person. Confirmed. So these assholes went down there to party and show solidarity with the communists. And in turn, they murdered other people because they wanted power to the hospital or to the hotel.
Jeez.
So again, the whole narrative is just dying. John Atakis says this. Chuck Norris died. He also passed away this weekend. It's not a huge international story. He once kicked a horse in the chin. Its descendants are now known as giraffes. That's pretty good. Okay, so here's Mark Victor Hansen. And this is the win that we didn't have to take on head first.
Problem is that country is not just Bolivia that goes communist for a while, or the crazy nut in Colombia who's a communist. It's like Maduro, but it's a lot better at it. So wherever there is a communist uprising or government anti-American, there are Cubans there. So a lot of Cubans got killed protecting Maduro. They're considered the elite bodyguard of a communist dictator in the Western. They were even in Africa. Reagan was fighting them in Angola, giving money for freedom fighters that were fighting Cubans. They were all the way in. 20,000 of them were in there. That's one of the reasons they're poor. So the question is, everybody wants to neutralize this country that is rabidly anti-American, and it sends out Cuban insurrectionaries all throughout South America. And so we were having a conservative or a traditional or a pro-American or a moderate 1990s, early 2000 phenomenon. And then it started to turn hard left with Chavez, and then Colombia, and then Bolivia, and then Peru, and the crazy people in Argentina. And the Cubans were fanning all that.
And what happened there was Reagan left power and we got Bill Clinton, right? So Reagan was ABC, anything but communist. And the critique of Reagan was he was propping up right-wing dictators all over North and South America, or really mostly South America. He was propping up right-wing dictators who people viewed as just as oppressive as the communists, okay? And so when Reagan and Bush Sr. left power, we ended up with Clinton, who was obviously way more sympathetic with socialism and communism and collectivism. And so they took their foot off the gas pedal, and that's when we saw the leftist uprising all through our hemisphere.
They're very sophisticated. And now we feel Russia's tied down, and Russia can't. We have an embargo on Russian oil, and they can't get the oil there. And then Maduro is gone, so Venezuela's not allowed to give them the oil, and nobody's going in or out, so they're bankrupt. So then question is, do you really want to have a Biggs type thing where you send in people to fight and have a big blow up, and then the MAGA people say with good reason, well, I could put up with Venezuela. Nobody got killed. He was a communist dictator, and that was a one-off, like Soleimani or Wagner Group. But then you went in and you had bombed earlier the Iranian nuclear. Well, I could put on that. That was 25 hours of war, big deal. And then you went into Iran again. Well, I'm getting a little wary of you guys. And now you're going to go into Cuba. These are forever wars. That's what their argument that Steve Bannon or Tucker or Candace or Marjorie Taylor Greene are making. It doesn't help when senators, when Lindsey Graham says that Cuba's next, it's like as if we're looking for dragons to slay, so to speak. John Adams warned against. So you want to find a way to get communists out there without going in there, but still keeping the pressure on. And I think they're going to go to Cuba and say, you're broke, you have no oil, you have no electricity, people are almost starving, and we're right next to you, and we've got 200,000 Cubans in Miami area, and they're all willing to help. All we need from you is a reasonable thug. Somebody who doesn't export at revolution all around. Somebody doesn't kill their own people. A strong person. And he can even have backgrounds in your regime. But he's got to be somebody who has a turn of course. And if you find that person, we will engage with you. So, and I think that's the ultimatum we gave them, and they're considering it. And we don't have to go in there and do anything. He has.
That's the Dulce Rodriguez model. Hey, Dulce, you want to play ball? You're under indictment. We can come get you too. Hope you're sleeping good at night. Oh, I'll play ball. Yeah, no, absolutely. No more oil for Cuba? Done. Oh, you want us to go on the American dollar? Done. Oh, you want Chevron to come in and pump oil again and get their oil refineries back? Done. Okay. We just need a reasonable thug.
8 months, yes, before the midterms, but there is a magic period, 60 days, where you need 6 months to get your money going, your campaigns going, the primaries are all over. You need to get the economic news out. And the left knows that. So they don't want to talk. The left doesn't want to talk about, I haven't heard the word affordability in a while. When the inflation rate's going down, they don't want to talk about it. They didn't want to talk about gas because gas was 30 or 40 cents cheaper than the cheapest it had ever got under Biden. We're producing more oil than we ever have. So they don't, one day Trump is a taco and the next day he's a warmonger. They have no consistent message other than whatever Donald Trump is for, I'm against.
And Donald Trump is literally cleaning up our hemisphere, right? It's cleaning up our hemisphere. Cuba is going to fall. I mean, it has fallen. It's just a matter of when you're going to get the regime change, right? I mean, at a certain point, they will run out of bullets to fire against their own protesters. Okay, it's just a matter of time. And here's the thing: this is reinforced by the fact that the rest of South America is starting to fall in line. You ever heard of a country called Costa Rica? Okay, Costa Rica has been another one of these hotbeds for gangs and narco terrorism and stuff like that. It's been a connection. If you look here at the map, you've got Venezuela here, Costa Rica here, and Mexico here. This has been one of the wayovers between the Venezuelan cartels and the Mexican cartels. Costa Rica's been in the middle. And guess what? They did something that has never, ever, ever, ever happened in the history of Costa Rica this weekend.
Costa Rica just did something it has never done in its entire history. It put a former Supreme Court justice in handcuffs, a bulletproof vest, and a helmet, and put him on a plane straight to Texas. Celso Gamboa, 49 years old, former judge of the Supreme Court of Justice, former security minister, once one of the most powerful legal figures in Central America, walked out in chains. The charges? International cocaine trafficking. The allegation being that Gamboa used his government connections, his access, his influence, his position at the apex of Costa Rica's legal system to facilitate drug movement at scale. The reason this is historical isn't just the man. It's that Costa Rica has never extradited one of its own citizens before, ever. The country had a constitutional prohibition on handing nationals over to foreign jurisdictions. That changed in 2025 when a judicial reform removed the ban, specifically to tackle organized crime that had been hiding behind the protection of citizenship. The new law came with conditions. Costa Rica negotiated that extradited nationals cannot face the death penalty or sentences.
Notice how Costa Rica is also right along the gap that you got to go from South America up. So all these Tren de Agua migrants walked right through Costa Rica unabated. This guy was one of the people that covered for it and allowed that to happen. Gone.
Exceeding 50 years. The United States agreed. The deal was done, and Gamboa became the first person to be sent to face American federal prosecutors under the new framework. He didn't go quietly. He denied the charges as being made in bad faith, but he also told journalists he would testify about others, politicians, organized crime figures, whoever, if his safety in the U.S. could be guaranteed, which is either a statement of an innocent man willing to cooperate or someone who has a lot to say and wants something in return. Costa Rica's Attorney General framed it pretty simply. No one can use Costa Rican nationality to evade justice. Costa Rica has long been considered one of the safest and most stable countries in Latin America, but it sits in a region where drug trafficking networks have systematically corrupted judicial and governmental institutions for decades. Guatemala, Honduras, El Salvador, the pattern of cartels embedding themselves in the institutions supposed to fight them is well documented. Costa Rica's willingness to extradite its own Supreme Court judge sends a message to every cartel operating in the region. The shield of citizenship, the assumption that a powerful enough position makes you untouchable, just got a very public hole punched through it. The plane landed in Texas. The trial will soon follow. Sometimes the most important courtroom story of the week happens in a country most people couldn't find on a map without some help.
Isn't that the case? Isn't that the case?
Oh, especially if your map's not right. That one still said Gulf of Mexico on.
Sanctions. So it extends. So that was Costa Rica. And then we have Colombia. Donald Trump was asked about the president of Colombia, who's been with these Trump, come get me kind of things. And then they got Maduro and he's like, I'm just going to lay low and be quiet. And then a week ago, he's like, was it Ecuador is bombing our country. They've invaded our sovereign territory. What are you going to do about it? Probably nothing. You know why he's going to do nothing? It's because Trump's got his number. He's next.
In response to the United States taking sanctioned oil from Venezuela, Colombian President Gustavo Petro criticized the United States by saying, well, the Southwest is stolen land and that it should be returned to Latin America. I just wanted to know what your response to that is.
Well, he has to watch because, he's got drug factories. They make cocaine in Colombia. And he's no friend of the United States. He's very bad guy. And he's got to watch his ass because he makes cocaine and they send it into the United States of America from Colombia. We love the Colombian people. I love the Colombian people. They're great people, energetic, smart, great. But their new leader is a troublemaker. And you better watch it. You better close up those cocaine factories. They have at least 3 major cocaine factories. We know where they are. You better close them up fast, yeah.
He was on Air Force One and he was asked about it. And they said, would you consider going in and doing a military enrichment? Sure, you bet. He just pretty casually like, we'll go.
I love how he describes the cocaine manufacturers as energetic.
That's pretty good. I like this little meme here. So there's Maduro. Gustavo, nunca imagine encontrarnos aquí in New York. I never thought we'd meet here in New York. The president of Venezuela, the president of Colombia. Oh, what a reunion. You guys can share a cell. Oh, man. It is, again, things are absolutely changing. I going back in history and thinking about the Civil War, right? Because the Civil War was another moment in time where America was very divided, clearly. And there was a winner and there was a loser. The North won, the South lost, and the South paid the consequences of that. Okay. But Lincoln, on the morning of the victory, was it 3 days after the official end of the Civil War, he was assassinated in Ford's Booth Theater. Mm-hmm. And he was assassinated by a gentleman who believed that the country would rally around him and that the South would rise and basically then win the war because he would have decapitated Abraham Lincoln. And it didn't go that way. Didn't go that way at all. Yeah. And there was a huge problem because Lincoln had a bodyguard who happened to go be at the bar at the moment that George Wilkes Booth walked into the theater and took out Lincoln. Mm. We have a problem in our Secret Service. Okay. So the woman, I'm just going to read this here. This comes from Real Clear Politics. Exclusive. Female Secret Service agents faulted for the June 13th Butler failures that nearly killed Trump has been suspended again. This time, the agent in question, Mayo Perez, is under internal Secret Service investigation for allegedly secretly marrying a foreign national and failing to report it for 9 months. Do not admit. This is the third time Perez has been suspended in a little more than a year. She is on administrative leave and under a do not admit status while the investigation continues. Congressional investigations that examined the Butler failures faulted Perez for not placing any Secret Service or local police assets on top of the now notorious sloped roof of the American Glass building where the would-be assassin Thomas Crooks fired off his shots, among other security problems at Butler. And it was the first time that CNN had gone to cover one of Trump's rallies, the one that he got shot at. Good gravy. Where'd they get that info? Yet Congress also questioned why the Secret Service allowed an inexperienced agent to be placed on such a crucial role at an outdoor rally with thousands of people in attendance. The decision to have Perez in a leading security role for the Butler rally is even more concerning, considering that top-level Secret Service officials, including current Secret Service Director Sean Curran, who was serving as the Trump campaign detail leader at the time, had been briefed on an Iranian threat to Trump's life. Despite the ongoing congressional investigations and internal Secret Service review of her role in the Butler failures, Perez quietly married a Brazilian foreign national last April without notifying the agency. Brazil is overrun with socialism and communism. Okay, it's overrun with it. So who knows what his allegiance is? According to a copy of her marriage certificate located on the Brevard County Public Records website, and according to sources familiar with the timing of when she informed the agency of a marriage, the investigation is looking into the timing of Perez's marriage to a foreign national and whether the woman was an illegal immigrant at the time of the marriage. Oh, by the way, she's gay. Perez had informed the Secret Service of her contact with the Brazilian woman in 2024 before the assassination attempt on Trump's life. But the agency may have either lost the notification or failed to act on it in time, according to several sources in the Secret Service community. It's unclear, however, whether Perez characterized the contact accurately in 2024 and ever since, agents are questioning whether she followed mandatory protocol to keep the Secret Service updated on as the relationship was developing and when the two began to live together and were subsequently married. The marriage took place in April 2025, according to the marriage certificate obtained on public records database. I'll link to the marriage certificate below. Yet the Secret Service community says Perez didn't inform the agency until January, 9 months after the marriage took place. The internal Secret Service investigation is examining whether the woman Perez was dating and married last year, the woman she was dating last year had overstayed her visa and was facing a deportation order. Oh, yeah. Someone who's got something personal at stake when Trump comes into power and promises mass deportation definitely should have her guarding the president. Multiple sources familiar with the matter told RCP. Secret Service has a checkered history of covering up or unevenly disciplining agents who have had relationships with foreign nationals, including at least one known Russian spy. In 2018, news broke of a suspected Russian spy that had been working for the Secret Service in the U.S. Embassy in Moscow for at least a decade. Dan Bongino broke that, revealed on his podcast that he had tried to report the spy when he was serving in the embassy before he left the Secret Service in 2011. Anyways, big problem below. So here's a picture of her. That's the woman. And there's the woman right there guarding Donald Trump. Hello, we've got a problem here at home, right? We've got a problem here at home, which is why, right, I believe Donald Trump has turned his attention. He's gone and he's cleaned up the dragons over the world. Things seem to be on autopilot. You got El Salvador, you got Costa Rica sending their, we don't want the discombobulator. You can have them, have our Supreme Court justice, right? You've got Ecuador invading Colombia, taking care of narco terrorists there. That's going to lead to the fall of the Colombian president. You've got Venezuela in check. Cuba's clearly on the decline. China's feckless and weak in this whole thing. Russia's like, hey, are we going to have an ally with America? Are we going to promote family values again, Donald Trump? We'd love to enter the world order and play nice in the neighborhood, right? We've got a lot more in common with you than we have the Han Chinese. So Donald Trump posted this this week. He said, Donald Trump and MAGA Republicans are the threat to the very soul of the country. Oh, no, that was Joe Biden. That was Joe Biden. Okay. So just so you just set the stage here, when you hear critique of Donald Trump saying that half the country is an enemy to America, he didn't do it first. All right. Now, with the death of Iran, the greatest enemy America has is the radical left. Highly incompetent Democrat Party. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Let's pump the brakes for a second here. When Joe Biden tweeted that out about MAGA, you saw what he did. He rounded up January 6ers, Arctic Frost, all these cases, Jack Smith going after MAGA because you're a threat to America. So now Donald Trump's turned the tables on him. He says, now that we've dealt with Iran, which is this off balance sheet, giving oil to China, Cuba, Venezuela, the whole thing. He's like, now we're turning the attention domestic. The greatest enemy America has is the radical left, highly incompetent Democrat Party. Thank you for your attention to this matter. And every time there's a thank you for your attention to this matter, typically means something's going to get done. As in, my cabinet officials, thank you for your attention to this matter. It's time. So Anna Paulina Luna was on with Jillian Michaels from The Biggest Loser. Weight loss, not that she's a loser, but she was on with Jillian Michaels talking about some of the stuff that Congress has been briefed on in the SCIF recently about what was going on during the Joe Biden regime.
When we were investigating the Biden administration and his son's business dealings, there was a lot of money coming in from China. And that wasn't the only, if the American people truly knew some of the stuff that we were briefed in classified settings on how bought and paid for the Biden administration was by China, I think that the word would be probably treasonous.
Yeah.
Because essentially they were selling out the country, and really, if you want to talk about, taking over without a shopping fire, this was the entire strategy of what the Chinese government was doing with the Biden administration, and no one seemed to care, right? And so you have an administration that's been very actively kind of taking this head on, but there is a lot of foreign-funded spy operations. There's
a lot of foreign-funded spy operations to get you to turn the other cheek. Because why? You've got Iran, which is the Islamic influence. You've got You've got APAC, which has some Israeli influence. That's all foreign. And then you've got the communists through China. That's all foreign. And they all have one shared objective. Maybe not APAC so much, right? But they have one shared objective: take out the United States. That's it, right? That's their shared objective. And so you see that. You see it in our social media. You see it in our universities. You see it in our elementary school classrooms. Anything to degrade, denigrate the American way of life, capitalism, corporatism, on it goes, right? Their entire intent was to discredit the United States and create this aura of plausible believability that America is on the decline. And some very high level people have bought into that. Clearly, the Tucker Carlsons of the world, the Nick Fuentes. What a mess. Accountability has to come. This is Todd Blanche on with Katie Miller, who is Stephen Miller's wife, okay, deputy chief of staff in the White House. This is Todd Blanche talking about the upcoming accountability. And again, I don't like the cut of this guy's jib. I think he's holding a lot of stuff back. I think he's a problem. But thank you for your attention to this matter.
Why haven't we arrested Clapper, Comey, Brennan? So many traitors to our country. Why haven't we done more to hold people accountable?
I think that well, first of all, I'm not going to talk about any ongoing investigations, and I can't. But I think the Attorney General and myself, Director Patel, are focused on nothing more than accountability.
These are people who waged witch hunts against President Trump for only political purposes. Yet I'm sure they're all guilty of committing various crimes, which I know you can't comment on. So we'll give you a pass. But don't you agree that we should hold people accountable who do these types of things?
I think there's nothing more important in the Department of Justice than accountability. Yes, I agree with that.
Okay. So one of the ways that Donald Trump is holding them accountable, it's not just the Comey subpoena and the Brennan subpoena. I sure hope as campaign season kicks off for the midterms, we just get, this is what Brian Cates said years ago. Imagine when Donald Trump gets to campaign while the DOJ is dropping indictments on all these ringleaders of the cabal, right? Boom, 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 boom. Be very interesting. Another thing that's been going on is obviously the long lines at the airports because TSA hasn't been funded. So Donald Trump, again, he outsmarted these guys in the chess move. He dropped a nuke on these guys.
Posting this on True Social, quote, if the radical left Democrats don't immediately sign an agreement to let our country, in particular our airports, be free and safe again, I will move our brilliant and patriotic ICE agents to the airports where they will do security like no one has ever seen before, including the immediate arrest of all illegal immigrants who have come into our country, with heavy emphasis on those from Somalia who have totally destroyed, with the approval of a corrupt governor, attorney general, and Congresswoman Ilhan Omar, the once great state of Minnesota. I look forward to seeing ICE in action at our airports. Make America great again. And that comes posting this on.
And
come this way. No, you go that way.
You're out. So that started this morning. Okay? That started this morning. And apparently it's already been to great success. I saw some posts this morning from Jack Posobiec. He got on an airplane. He's like, security was a dream. It was back to normal. Okay. Now, Tom Holman said basically what they're going to come in here and do is they're going to do the things that are low level jobs, not the highly trained security process, but like guarding exit doors and entrance doors and checking ID.
This is about helping the men and women at TSA. They've lost several hundred employees. The lines are really slow because of the shutdown. This is about going to helping TSA do their mission and get the American public through that airport as quick as they can. Well, while adhering to all the security guidelines and the protocols, we're simply there to help TSA do their job in areas that don't need their specialized expertise, such as screening through the X-ray machine. Not training that, we won't do that. But there are roles we can play to release TSA officers from the non-significant roles, such as guarding an exit, so they can get back to the scanning machine to move people quicker. And we're just simply helping our fellow officers at TSA.
Oh, seems pretty reasonable because it is reasonable. But Donald Trump has let them put on that theater. Now he's going to provide an instant solution, take away the pain, and he's turning to the Democrats and he's like, hey, guys, we need to vote on some stuff. He put out another post basically saying, okay, I'll agree. I don't want to negotiate with the radical left, but I'll agree to a $5 billion deduction in ICE funding because they're fully funded. But you got to pass the Safe America Act. You got to do no mail-in ballots, no all paper ballots. Basically just laid it out there for him. I've already fixed the problem because you funded ICE, so I'm putting him in the airports. Pain's going to go away. And watch this. Elon Musk offered to pay the salary of the TSA employees. They're going to lose all of their leverage right now. Okay. And then on top of that, the House is preparing, as soon as that's all passed, they're preparing to codify Donald Trump's executive orders into law.
Congresswoman, looking ahead to 2026, of course, we got the midterms coming up. That obviously you're elected in for 2 years. You're campaigning for half that time. That's not your fault. That's just how it works. But when we look at the intersection of policy and politics going into the midterms, most Americans sit at home and they go, Trump's doing a good job. And when you look at what he's getting done, a lot of it he's getting done through the executive branch. You've got the big, beautiful bill you guys have passed. You've got things like the Lincoln-Riley Act that I think you should tout more heavily. But are there some agenda items that you all, the Republicans in the House, can really push and say, hey, this is what we're doing for Americans, and this is why we should be reelected?
Most certainly. I think to your guys' point earlier, you did a great job covering the fact that we need we need voters to show up to the polls. I think that in part that has to do with the fact that we need to codify President Trump's executive orders. So I know Speaker Johnson has announced that upon returning, there's going to be 81 of those executive orders that we're going to be working on codifying and marking in stone so they can never reverse those. In addition to that, one of the top issues in this country right now, something that I addressed with you all last time I was on with you, is banning insider trading. And I have since gotten a commitment from Speaker Johnson that within the first quarter of next year, we will actually be banning that. That's something that Hakeem Jeffries has been actively working against. So that actually came out in the press. Democrats called him out for actually trying to stop that bill. And so I think that there's a lot that we're going to be able to do. But again, codifying, invigorating the base, and making sure that President Trump is out on the campaign trail, which he's promised to do.
All during the campaign trail. Timing is perfect. I propose to my J6 brothers and sisters who have been very upset about not having any kind of settlement or any kind of compensation or even a freaking apology about the whole January 6th thing, is this has to come in order. Donald Trump this weekend was posting about January 6th again, posting about Nancy Pelosi saying it was her fault, right? The election fraud stuff has become more and more revealed. It has to go in order, okay? Because you have to spend political capital. If he'd have done something about it in March of last year, he would have spent so much political capital, he might not have gotten the big, beautiful bill passed or any of these other important things. What do we got here, Ron?
Well, let's see. Well, we already did one of those. Let's keep going. Right. Shit. Let's do
pickaxe.
Whatever that is. Let's do it. Okay. Let's see. All right, guys. Big announcement. The pickaxe is officially live on iOS and Android. If you're tired of algorithmic manipulation, shadow banning, and platforms collecting your data while throttling your reach, this is exactly why Pickaxe exists. No algorithms deciding who sees your content. No data mining social media that actually acts social. And this is huge for the Rumble community. Your Rumble videos play directly inside the Pickaxe newsfeed like native posts. No redirects, no audience loss, just seamless integration. We've already got major voices on the platform like Diamond and Silk, The Vigilant Fox, Rampage Jackson, and Dr. Pierre Corey, Dr. Mary Talley, Bowden, Children's Health Defense, Shannon Joy, and many more building communities there. The Rumble gaming community is jumping into the Joker, Uncle Pudge, Midnight in the Mountains, Vaping Gamers, Chavez Flexington, Soundboard Lord, Cat Dog, and plenty more are making Pickaxe their home base. This is about owning your audience instead of renting it from an algorithm. Download the Pickaxe app right now on iOS or Android, or head to pickaxe.com to join. And remember, you are the algorithm. Woohoo!
All right. Thanks, Ron. Okay. As we head out to private, I want to play this press conference because down in Sheriff Chad Bianco down in California got a tip. There was something that happened in the election in this last election in California for Prop 50. And here's what it involves. It's built around a massive 45,896 vote discrepancy. One county. County logs show that there were 611,428 ballots cast. Yet, for some reason, Secretary of State Shirley Weber certified 657,322 votes. According to Bianco, Bonta repeatedly tried to shut down the probe. That's their attorney general. On Thursday, judge ruled that Bianco's office can resume investigating the counting under a special master. Bianco claims that neither Bonta nor Weber ever raised concerns about the massive 45,000 vote gap. So we're going to listen to this press conference from the Sheriff Bianco, and then we're going to head into private and we're going to expound on this because this is a huge deal. Caught in the act in 2025, and we've caught him before, but the temperature around election fraud in the middle of the Save America Act debate on the Senate floor, this breaks.
The investigation is very simple. The Registrar of Voters maintained handwritten logs of the total number of ballots coming into the ROV. An audit of those logs received from the Riverside County Registrar of Voters allegedly shows 611,428 ballots were cast, but 657,322 votes were reported and certified to the Secretary of State. That is a difference of 45,896 votes. The response from the Registrar of Voters was that it did not rely on logs and that it is a machine count that reflects a much smaller deviation that he chalks up to acceptable human error. I hope we can all agree there is no acceptable error, small or large, in our elections, let alone a 45,000 vote difference. Our investigation will determine the validity of that alleged discrepancy, and if found true, we will determine the cause. We will do that by physically counting the ballots. This is not a recount to determine how many votes were for or against Prop 50. Several weeks ago, I was contacted by a representative of Attorney General Bonta and asked to halt this investigation until after March 6th. No reason was provided, and there is no legal justification for the Attorney General to stop a lawful investigation. As a side, I also had intimate knowledge of the significance of that date. On February 26th, and again on March 4th, my office received a letter from AG Bonta directing a halt to this investigation. Yesterday, a Riverside Superior Court judge issued an order to appoint a special master to resume counting the ballots. Under direction of the court and the court's jurisdiction over all evidence, this investigation will continue despite AG Bonta's attempts to stop it. AG Bonta is part of the executive branch of this state. Under the separation of powers principle, AG Bonta does not have authority over the court or evidence, and I will carry out my constitutional duty to pursue justice impartially.
These guys got caught red-handed with 45,000 extra votes over ballots that they have in hand. Caught red-handed in the middle of the Save America Act being debated on the Senate floor. This is a huge deal.
Seems like no better debate point than that.
The only enemies America has left are the radical left Democrats in this country. And if you're going to take that same emphasis that you went after Maduro with this, the clock is ticking. The Democrats cheated on this. They did that and they've been caught. Now we've got so much stuff exposed. Ballots from 2020 sitting in an FBI warehouse, Dominion machines from Puerto Rico in the ODNI possession. You've got the digital fraud, the algorithms and the machines. You've got the paper fraud, the fake printers, the fake paper and everything. And now you've got in the act overstuffing the ballot.
It was probably just a one-time thing, Taylor.
And this Prop 50 was over what? Redistricting and shutting out Republicans all across the state of California. I'm telling you, this is monumental. Okay, guys, it's time for us to jump into private. We're going to spend a couple minutes over there expanding on this because it is a huge deal. Huge deal. So we'll talk to you guys again tomorrow.